South Africa's automotive industry stands at a defining moment. As the sector works towards the ambitions of the South African Automotive Master Plan 2035, transformation, localization, and supplier development have become critical pillars for long-term competitiveness. Through the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund, leading vehicle manufacturers are investing in building a more inclusive and sustainable automotive value chain. We speak to Ford Motor Company of Southern Africa CEO Neale Hill about why transformation matters, the role of equity equivalent investment programs, and how collaboration can unlock the next chapter of growth for South Africa's automotive industry.
So for us, the critical thing is making sure that we're a part of the community of South Africa, the economic success of South Africa, and that has been a long-standing criteria of Ford Motor Company on a global basis. We believe in giving back to the economies and the communities that we do business in, that our customers come from. And for us, it's really about how do we participate as a company, even though we're a global company, giving back into the economy and really making sure that we help South Africa really prosper and grow. And that we do through setting up roots, really implementing what we started in 1923 in South Africa, which was to establish a manufacturing base here and be a part of the South African economy and really giving back. So for us, that is absolutely critical that we participate fully in this and that we can make a material difference in the country. So if I start off with ourselves, that was one of the biggest hurdles that we were really facing as an industry. And this is where the automotive industry together with the DTIC came together, the Equivalency Investment Program. And it was really about how do we overcome the challenge that we have from a governance perspective in BBBEE, work with the government and be able to develop a model that allows us to really continue the investment, but also become meaningful players, ensuring that this is not just a governance criteria, but it's actually a meaningful contribution to transformation in South Africa. So the ownership hurdle was a big hurdle for the industry and for ourselves to overcome. We felt that by creating the Investment Transformation Fund, we were going to be able to deepen that localization. And that goes deeper because the fact that it's not only about setting up black industrial businesses, but it's about the offtake agreements then that each of the OEMs sets up. The advantage also is that it gives us the ability to be able to go upstream and downstream. So when you start looking at how it's worked for all of the industry, it's made a material difference in terms of ensuring the largest manufacturing sector in South Africa is actually supportive of the country's BBBEE initiatives. Without the EEIP, we wouldn't be where we are. So it's been absolutely pivotal in terms of that framework and that creative solution that was developed together. So when you start looking at it, and I'm going to struggle to call out the individual suppliers, but if you look, for example, here in Silverton, where we've got the Tshwane Special Economic Automotive Zone that was established as part of the transformation that we've embarked on, that would not have been possible if we hadn't have embarked on the EEIP process and also through the AITF. Feltex is one of the examples of a company that has really established its roots right next door to Silverton, has benefited from the AITF fund and has become a meaningful contributor to Ford Motor Company's success and drives local content, which is such a critical component of what we're doing in South Africa as part of the Automotive Development Plan. So absolutely critical that that really works. So when you look at suppliers like that, absolute example of where somebody has benefited from it. The offtake agreements, we take parts from Feltex, we bring them straight into the plant. They go into our vehicles that we assemble and distribute to over 100 countries outside of South Africa. So that's business that has really been facilitated through the AITF process. The the APDP already is such a critical piece of work. Yes, we've got to look at it, make sure that it's still relevant and still current, for the changing circumstances that we're looking at. But, for South Africa to achieve the goals of the APDP, is absolutely critical in terms of delivering 1% of global production, getting to the target of in excess of 1 million vehicles with 60% local content. That is absolutely critical in terms of making sure that collectively the AITF with the supplier involvement, with the manufacturer involvement, and the suppliers work together to find solutions to be able to increase that local content. We've seen announcements recently where we see some of our suppliers moving offshore. That's extremely worrying because we've got to find ways of keeping more and more suppliers and more local content in South Africa so that we can see the added value coming in, growing the economy, growing jobs in South Africa, and contributing to the overall GDP growth. South Africa is really falling behind in terms of our GDP growth, and we've got to find a way to grow at an emerging economy rate. And I think that this whole ecosystem plays a critical role in terms of helping us get our GDP growth rates above 2.5%, 3%, 4% that we really need to see happening. Great success really looks like a domestic economy that's growing. I touched on that in terms of growth rates in excess of 3%. But then off that comes your growth of your middle class. Your middle class sees more going into the local economy in terms of expenditure, opportunities. You see the domestic vehicle industry growing, and a greater adoption and a greater absorption of locally built vehicles. And I think that that's really what we're all striving for, is to see more built in South Africa vehicles being bought in South Africa and helping grow the economy. The import economy that we have in terms of bringing in fully built up vehicles doesn't really put down sustainable roots in South Africa, and that's really what the 7 OEMs who've all been a part of the AITF are all striving and working towards doing with the offtake agreements and putting economic activity back into this country.